All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So today we are going to be looking at the basically the end of Greece. Now, if you've watched the second video from last week, the one you guys were supposed to do on your own, you should have learned about the Peloponnesian War and basically what brought about the end of Greece, more or less. Now we're going to be talking about basically when Greece gets taken over, and there's one man who, at the time, said to have conquered the world, and that's the man Alexander the Great. We're going to be looking at him today. Okay, so make sure you have your Google form. Again, you should make this YouTube video like half your screen, and the Google form the other half. Okay. Now, the objective today, basically conclude on if Alexander the Great really deserves that nickname. Does he truly deserve that nickname, the Great? Second objective, analyze the impact Alexander the Great had on the world. The third one, critique on whether Alexander the Great was a military genius or was he just at the right place at the right time? Okay, because sometimes it's not that the person is really good or is really skilled. Sometimes it's kind of like luck, right place, right time type of thing. So you guys are, in a sense, going to critique that. So let's move on to the warm-up picture. So you have the warm-up questions. I think I put down there like 2 things or 3 things that you see. So go ahead, write that out. The second question, what do you think this artist is trying to say? Again, if you watched last week's video on the Peloponnesian, the fall of Greece, um, then that and this go hand in hand. Okay, because I'm trying to show you guys the transition between that one and this one. So go ahead, finish that up. Pause the video because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so here's the thing. The Greeks viewed the Macedonians as barbarians, that they were less than them. The Greeks thought they were like Chingon, that they thought they were really above the Macedonians. But the thing is, the Macedonians and a lot of other barbarians, they did, have like a system, of government. They did, they weren't just like cavemen and this and that. They had a system. They were smart people. They had tactics and things like that. So they weren't just running around crazy people. Okay. Now Philip II, which is the sculpture of him right there, in 359, Philip II took over as basically the king of Macedonia. Now the thing is, what made Philip II special is that he actually admired the Greek culture, and he was like, I like what they're doing. I like their, philosophy. I like their appreciation for art and literature. Um, so he basically wanted to unite Greece with Macedonia. Now, again, at this point, Greece is kind of getting on the weak point. They're no longer that power country that they were back in the day. They're kind of slowly going down, just like a lot of empires will be talking about in the future. No one stays on top forever. Um, and so what happens is um, in 338, there's a battle. They win. They actually kind of crush the Greeks, and they kind of merge with them. They kind of brought them under their wing and basically absorbed Greece. Now the thing is, Philip II told Greece that they should form a league and cooperate with one another to then take down Persia. Okay, that was the next goal. Now the thing is, Philip II just conquered Greece. Again, Greece, yeah, they were on the decline, but they were still pretty, known. So some people think that the Persians actually saw this takeover as like, oh, these guys, they're no one to mess with. They're trying to be the big boys on the block, so we better take out this guy, because he's already talking about trying to take us over. So before he could invade Persia, um, they sent assassins to kill him, and Philip II died. Okay, now like I said, because he used force to take over Greece and things like that, a lot of historians think that he basically put a target on his back. And once he died, that means that his son had to take over. And his son was name was Alexander. Okay, so as you can see, Alexander's father, he didn't really use diplomacy. And diplomacy is the art of basically talking effectively. You know, he used force, and then because of that, especially at this time of the in history, if a country shows force, that shows people, hey, keep an eye on them. And then his dad's like, well, let's go after Persia. That kind of put the painted the target on his back. So my question to you, which is on your Google Doc, um, what is the most effective way people can convince you to do something? Is it simply talking calmly to you? You know, I've seen people talk to one another about anything but whatever they wanted them to do. You know, they're talking about their life and just, how are you doing, things like that. And then, able to convince the person, can you think you can help me out with this? And the person's like, yeah, sure. Just by talking to them, they lowered their defenses, things like that. Okay. Straight giving you facts. Someone just straight up, here's the facts. Not even being nice, not being mean either, just here's the facts. Does that convince you to do something? Is it being placed in an ultimatum? Either you do this or this, one or the other. Which one is it? Okay. Is it someone like yelling at you? Like a football coach or like any type of sports coaches, they tend to yell a lot, and that gets people to do what they're supposed to be doing. You know, or is it even being physical? Someone basically grabbing your shoulder, like, get in there and do that. Does that make you do what you do something? Okay, or is it something else that I haven't mentioned? Okay, now again, like I said, these things I have personally seen done to people, and they, you know, did it, whatever the other person told them to do. Um, but you tell me what works for you and why. That's the key thing. Why? So is it person just talking calmly to you, being friendly? Is it just them giving you straight up facts? Is it an ultimatum? You know, is it yelling at you, being physical with you, or is it something else? Okay. So take a couple minutes, write that down, and then we're moving on in three, two, one. So here's the thing. Alexander the Great was actually groomed to be a king. Okay, now he was 20 years old when his dad died and he became king of Macedonia. But when he was younger, his dad basically had him taught the the history of war. You know, what famous battles happened, who won, how did they win, what's the best way to fight in this type of terrain, in this type of weather. Um, you know, uh, what did this group of you know people did in this battle that was good? What did they do bad? Where did they get right? What did they get wrong? So he was a student of fighting and war. And one of the things that his father really emphasized on and what was really taught was the glory of winning. You fight to win, and your country grows bigger, your name gets bigger, and it's the glory of war that makes you known. Okay. Now, on the same token, his father taught him military leadership. Now, it's one thing for military leaders to be like, go fight, go attack. You know, it's another thing for the general to be there with his men, fighting alongside him. You know, and the thing is, a lot of people are going to fight for somebody who's standing right beside them, as opposed to somebody way in the back saying, go, 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 go fight, go, go. You know, so that's the thing. His father taught him, and he was taught the glory of fighting, but also how to be an effective leader, how to get people to do something they normally wouldn't do. And one of the things that he was taught, which he does, is lead by example. Let me show you, you know, when they're talking about campaigns, how to fight, where to go, he's telling them, look at this battle, so and so year ago, These guys attacked from here. These guys attacked from here. What happened was these guys did this. This guy did this, and this is where they messed. This is where they messed up. What we're gonna do is something different. We're gonna do this and that. Okay, because he had that knowledge. He convinced them with facts by talking to them, things like that, and then being there, not hiding in the back, type of thing. Okay. Now the thing is, though, right away, right when he is king, he goes, "We're going after the Persians." Was it the smart thing to do? Not necessarily, but the thing is, he wanted revenge because that was his father. He wanted revenge. His father was taken from him, and that's how he saw it. Again, he was motivated by glory, the desire to make his kingdom big and get his name large, but it's also revenge. And also, the Persians actually burned down Athens in 480 BC, and so when they go into Persia and basically kick their butts, he's like, "Hey, remember what you did at Athens? Yeah, yeah, I know, because I studied that battle. Guess what? We're burning your place too." Okay, so he was no joke. Okay. 334 BC, he enters Asia Minor with 37,000 soldiers and gathers soldiers from Macedonia as well as Greece, and they're marching. They're going on tour. Okay. So here's the thing. We talked about the battle that he's having in his mind with the glory of fighting, the glory of your name, and your country being bigger, and also the same token, his father is killed and he wants revenge. So, which one do you think he felt more towards when it came to going against Persia? Was it more for the glory, or was it more for revenge? Because remember, the dad wanted to take over Persia, because his dad knew that taking over Persia is going to make the empire bigger, things like that, put a nice feather in your hat. So, what do you think? Is it the glory? Is it revenge? Or is it both? Is it a mix? What do you think? And at the same time, you don't have to write this, but think to yourself, how would it fall for you? You're now the leader just like him. You know war like the back of your hand. You know how to fight and things like that. Going against another country that just so happened to kill your dad or mom or whomever, would it be more for the glory taking over a big old country, or would it lean more to revenge for you? So put yourself in his shoes. Where would you fall? Okay. So go ahead, write that out. If you haven't done so already, we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. So at the end of 331 BC, he had conquered basically all of the Persian Empire. So if you look on the map right there where it says Persia, um, that whole area took over it. And the other thing is, places like Babylon, Egypt, they were once big, mighty, empires. But by the time he came around, they were already in the decline. So he took over Egypt quite easily. You know, when he came through Babylon, no problem. Um, Persia, straight up desire just to beat them, right? Um, and the thing is, he's going for the next 3 years. They went to Pakistan. So okay, so you can see them going through. Now here's the thing: they cross the Indus River and they actually go into India. Now, like I said, there was a couple of places where great empires were. Now they're in decline, so they just whip those people like nobody's business. But when they get to India, India actually really puts up a fight because now they're really far from home. India is in their home turf and they're fighting. Um, these were some really rough years, but Alexander the Great does win. He wins battles and wins, he's gained more and more territory. And he gets to the point where he's like, let's go, let's keep going. And his soldiers are just basically like, you know what, dude? Ugh, we're done. We're done. We've been at war for so long. We've conquered so much land. We've been away from our home. We're done. And this is where the old saying comes from, where Alexander the Great wept because there was no more lands to conquer. Okay. No, there was plenty of more land to conquer, but the thing is, his soldiers basically quit. Okay. So he's like, okay, let's go back. So they went back to Babylon. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever played a sport and you've given your all, you played hard, you had that adrenaline that pushed you further, made you stronger, made you faster, and then when you're done, you feel that crash, like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Oh, I can't lift my arm, my legs hurt. That's pure exhaustion. And that's what basically what happens to Alexander the Great. When he returns to Babylon, he's like, okay, I'm gonna plan the next conquest, next, we're gonna go another campaign. We need more people, things like that. But at the same time, his body is just like drained. His body's trying to recover from wounds, cuts and stabs and things like that. He's also battling a fever, and also there's reports that he was drinking a lot. So some people think, oh, he died from um, alcohol poisoning. Some say it was the fever that got him. Some say he succumbed to his wounds. It could be a mixture. Who knows? But the thing is, he died at the age of 32. He was only a king for 12 years, and he conquered all that land in green. Okay, and you have to remember, this is a time when they didn't have like the specially, fastest horses and things like that. That's nowadays they have horses because they bred them that way. Back then, you had the standard horse. It wasn't, bred to be running all fast, things like that. Unlike nowadays. Um, and you have to remember, a lot of those places they didn't have roads. So if there was a big old mountain, they had to go around and things like that. If there was a desert, they could go through, but there had to be water, or they had to carry a bunch of water. Um, so it's a lot harder back then. So here's the thing. On your Google form, I put the question on there. I know it says breakout session, but we didn't do it in class. If Alexander the Great's men had not stopped fighting, you know, do you think that he could have actually conquered the world? Would he have gone to Asia and Russia area? Could he have gone to, you know, Germany, Britain, France area, or even down south, deeper into Africa than Egypt? Do you think he could have conquered the world if he had enough men and things like that? Okay. So again, think of the time that took him to do that green area, and think about the world, how big it is, that side of the world. Okay, remember, they don't know about this side of the world yet. But that side of the world, look how big it is. Look how much he did in 12 years. And think to yourself, could he have? What do you think? Okay. So go ahead and write that. Pause the video because we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. Now here's the thing. Alexander the Great, he was supposed to have a nice grand funeral, but the thing is, because he died so young, it was like, oh dang, we need to get this tomb that was going to be specially made for him and the special carriage that was going to carry him around. We need to get started on it now. Okay. It took about 2 years to complete. Now here's the thing. Alexander the Great also wanted his body to be treated like the mummies, right? The ancient pharaohs of old. Um, but the thing is, it's like, how are we going to take this body through the heat, you know? And as you guys may or may not know, a body starts to really stink and decay um, after several days, especially with the heat. It gets nasty. So what they did is they put his body in honey. Now I'm sure you're thinking, why honey? What's that all about? Believe it or not, honey is a natural preservative. Honey keeps things, you know, intact because it basically there's no air. Okay, natural honey, it can save things for basically forever. It's like the one food that does not spoil. Everything else you can think of spoils. Everything in cans and things like that, it spoils eventually. Honey doesn't. Okay, So they put his body in honey, they take it to Egypt, and they prepare his body. Now, there was a video a couple weeks ago on Egypt where I went through that whole thing about the body, what they did. If you didn't watch it, I would suggest that you watch it. It's pretty cool. Um, so at this time, while his body is being sent to Egypt, or they're getting it prepared and stuff like that, the tomb is being carved out, and it's showing pictures of his greatest battles, type of thing. Um, the carriage eventually gets finished. So does the tomb. So it goes from uh, goes to Egypt. They already took care of his body, and then it gets sent to Alexandria. Now here's the thing: the body and the tomb gets lost. Okay, not on the way over, but through time, through war, conflict, things like that. People coming through and not knowing exactly what it is. They may have just destroyed it. They may have taken it. They may have just left it where it was, let it burn down, or it could be still buried somewhere. You know, nobody knows. And the thing is, as time went on, people kind of forgot about the tomb. So we don't know if it's buried, if it's destroyed, or what. Now, this picture is not the actual tomb, it's kind of a depiction. It's to show how the tomb more likely looked like, but it's not the real tomb. Okay. So here's the thing. The exit ticket is no longer what did you learn? Because the thing is, a lot of you guys were very vague in your answers, and some of you guys didn't watch the videos, so it kind of shot you in the foot. So now what I've done is I've really made it so where you had to watch the video to explain it. Um, do you think Alexander the Great deserves that nickname? And why? Explain to me why. And if you put something like he conquered land, well, whoop whoop. So has a lot of other people. They don't call him the Great. Explain why. Why to you does he deserve that name? Okay. Based off what you learn, what is the greatest impact Alexander the Great had on the world? You know, so we've talked about what he done, things like that. Um, think about. Remember, he's one of the first people to really conquer land. So, and think about future people. Conquerors and things like that. Last one, critique on whether Alexander the Great was a military genius or was he at the right place at the right time. Critique it. Why do you believe what you believe? Back it up. Okay. So once you're finished with that, that's the end of this class. Okay. Um, guys, please take care. Be safe. Show up to class. Okay. This is a lot easier when we're in class together and you can get it done, and it's one less thing you have to worry about. Okay. And don't forget, when you show up to class, right when you show up, put your name and the time you showed up to class in the chat box. Okay. Because that's how I take attendance. Because you have to remember, sometimes I get up to 20 students in a class and I don't see every student who comes in. Okay. So it's imperative that you put your name and the time when you log into these Zoom meetings. Okay. So, again, that's it. You guys have a good day. Take care. Be safe, guys. All right. Adios.